Anybody can get a sign, scribble some marker. Oh, yeah, I hate down with justice. No justice, no peace, and go outside. That's easy. It's much more difficult to do what like Daryl did. You get up your time. You're going down there. You're sitting all day. At least do that. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to be called for jury duty, but at least do that. Good morning, Wanda. Good morning, Tonika. Hey, Tanek, good morning to you. Good morning, Rhonda. Good to see you. Cruther writes, 2 of my granddaughters were at that dance, dressed in African dresses. Oh, it was some sweet young people. I mean, you know, few things fill my heart with more joy than seeing young children, kids, young people happy, smiling, laughing. Okay? So that's why little Buddha, I take her, we do our dance, we get it in, and then she runs and she wants to dance with her friends. And I'm sitting there like, wait a minute, in 5 years, she'll be here by herself. It'll be a situation where I drop her off. Daddy, can I go to the concert? No, you can't go to the concert. It gets deep. Keena writes, I love it. They don't get all wrinkled up. Pat writes, I was called for jury duty once. When I was asked if I had sons, no jury for me. Yeah. Speaking of jury duty, I'm not over this O.J. Simpson trial. It was deep. This is Johnny Cochran on Oprah. This is a throwback clip. And he went on Oprah, I think it was immediately after, like in the days immediately after the jury. And Oprah asked, it was back when Oprah would when she was back in front of her crowd, she had the chair up on the stage, and she had a big screen, and she would talk to the screen. It's like the beginning of like closed circuit satellite interviews and things like this. This is Cochran on Oprah. Check this out.
When was the turning point for you in this trial when you believed? We know all along you have said that O.J. Simpson was innocent, but when did you believe that he would go free?
Well, that's very tough to say. I mean, I think there were a number of turning points. I think that Barry Scheck's cross-examination of Dennis Fung, when we started to show, I think, the jury and perhaps the whole world, the general incompetence of that lab over there at the LAPD, I thought that was important. I thought that the glove demonstration was probably important also, from a standpoint that if the gloves didn't fit, certainly these were not Mr. Simpson's gloves. I thought that the testimony...
Let me interrupt you here, Mr. Cochran. Did you recognize before he put on the gloves, obviously you all knew they weren't going to fit?
Yes, I did. During the break before, I tried those gloves on, and they were a tight fit on my hands, and O.J.'s hands are much, much larger than mine. So I was sure that if they did this experiment, it was not going to work.
Was that the big moment?
Well, I thought it was a big moment. It came right after all this DNA. They spent all this time going through complex testimony. But here was something that was graphic. The prosecution's contention was that the murderer had used these particular gloves. Well, the gloves didn't fit Mr. Simpson. I mean, that was graphic for everyone to see, and I thought that was important. I think also, Oprah, that the testimony of Dr. Henry Lee was very, very important. When Henry Lee, who is the #1 criminalist in the world, by all accounts, says that something is wrong with their testimony and their evidence, I thought that was very persuasive also.
It's deep. And there was something very interesting that came out if you watch the People versus O.J. Simpson. And I'm not sure this actually happened in real life, but Darden's talking to Johnny Cochran, right? And Johnny Cochran really tried to play Christopher Darden. He somewhat apologized. He's like, listen, man, it was war out there. I had to do what I had to do. And they strayed some other barbs back and forth, some words back and forth. And Darden's like, you know, OJ is like the first man in history to ever be acquitted because of his skin color, because he was black. And generally speaking, because of a black man, his skin color, right, will convict him. But you know who I blame? I blame, to some degree, the LAPD. And not just the LAPD, but America. And putting Mark Furman and making him a critical part of the prosecution. Because that's what really killed him. It was about emotion. And that's what Johnny Cochran understood. All that DNA evidence, I mean, we understand more now. But back then, it was new. Yeah, people have been sequestered for many months. You're trying to beat them over the head with this very dense information about DNA. I mean, the Dream Team played it perfectly. They played it perfectly. And they use racial animosity. They use the history of the racism, police brutality that many folks in Los Angeles and California and around the country knew about, had experienced firsthand. They use it against them in the courtroom, period. And it worked. And it worked. Reasonable doubt. And when they caught Mark Fuhrman in a lie and he pled the fifth, I mean, there it is right there. That, to me, was the big moment. The glove, that was icing on the cake. That was icing on the cake. If it does not fit, you must acquit. That was Johnny Cochran with Oprah. Here's Robert Kardashian. He sat down with Barbara Walters. I mean, we're going back to the 90s, folks. It's a throwback Monday. Check this out. Speaking with Barbara Walters, this is Robert Kardashian. And she's asking him questions about what his feelings about OJ. This is the real Robert Kardashian, not David Schwimmer. I thought you might find it interesting. And also the moment in which, and they talked about this if you watched it, or they showed these moments, if you watched the People versus O.J. Simpson, the miniseries. And we found out, maybe you remembered, that it was Robert Kardashian, O.J. Simpson's lifelong friend, who picked him up the day that he was released. Check this out.
It was very exciting, Barbara. We left the courthouse in a van. We had a van in front and a car behind us, and people were stopping along.
The Bronco ride, what was it like, that ride with O.J. Simpson?
Closest friend, Robert Kardashian, has been speaking to Barbara Walters.
Mr. Kardashian, you left that courthouse today with O.J. Simpson in that white van. It was reminiscent in a way of the Bronco ride. What was it like, that ride back?
It was very exciting, Barbara. We left the courthouse in a van. We had a van in front and a car behind us, and people were stopping along the freeway. They were yelling, they were screaming, there were signs.
Good things?
Good things. We saw a few bad things, but predominantly the good things outweighed the bad, I would say, 1,000-to-1.
People cheering like the Bronco ride?
A lot of people cheering. They were even on overpasses cheering.
What has the atmosphere been like at Mr. Simpson's house today? Who is with him? What are they all doing? You've been there all day.
His family is with him, his older children, his mother, his sisters, friends, attorneys. It's as you can imagine, a very, very touching time, a very cheerful time for a man who spent 15 months in prison and was found innocent.
Has Mr. Simpson talked to his two little children, Justin and Sydney?
I was just leaving the home when he had placed a call to them, so by now I'm sure he has, but I was not present when he did so.
Listen, you are one of O.J. Simpson's closest friends. Did you ever say to him, O.J., did you do it?
Yes, I did. I looked him straight in the eyes. He was in jail, and I said, O.J., I'm going to ask you a question. And he said, what? And I said, did you commit these crimes? And he said, I did not. I am innocent. I did not commit these crimes. And he started to weep. And Barbara, I have been in business with this man. I have known this man for 25 years. He has never lied to me, and I believed him, and that's why I've been by his side throughout this whole ordeal.
What does Mr. Simpson plan to do now?
It's a good question, Barbara. His life is in total turmoil, as you can imagine. You have to remember, he's been locked up for 15 months. He doesn't know what the atmosphere is like out in the world, so he needs time to get his life together.
Is he going to write another book?
That I don't know.
Yes, you do.
He probably will, but that'll be in the future.
What about pay television, pay-per-view?
O.J. has a lot to say. He wants to tell the public his story, and I'm sure you can expect him to be telling that story very soon.
On television?
Yes.
Pay-per-view?
Probably so.
Mr. Simpson said that he was now going to try to find out who murdered his wife and Ron Goldman. How does he expect to do that?
He feels very strongly about finding the killer or killers of Nicole and Ron. The task is overwhelming because, as you know, every day that goes by since the time of the murders, it makes it that much more difficult to find who did this crime. But he wants to find out as badly as anybody else.
How is Mr. Simpson going to try to find out who the real murderers are, if they are out there? Is he going to spend more money? Is he going to hire detectives? Are you going to be involved? What's he going to do?
He is going to spend more money. He is going to hire detectives. he does. There were a lot of leads that we don't feel were followed up on in this case. We're going to follow those leads.
Do you or does Mr. Simpson have a theory as to why these murders were done?
We do not. We are at a loss, but we're going to find out.
For this kind of a day, you're very gracious to come into us. Thank you, Mr. Kardashian.
Thank you, Barbara. My pleasure.
And that's Robert Kardashian. And that's the father of the now famous Kardashian clan. And as the story goes, shortly after this interview, he was already conflicted. But shortly after this interview, he basically severed his ties with O.J. Simpson, never to talk to him again, even leading up to his death. Because he believed that, and again, who would know better? I mean, Robert Kardashian was O.J. Simpson's friend. Their families were intertwined. That's a tight bond. He was also a part of the defense team, which meant that he looked at all of the evidence. He saw it all. And he, as we understand it, at the very end, severed his ties with Mr. O.J. Simpson because he believed that O.J. Simpson had did something wrong. He had killed Nicole and Ron. I believe it was a fit of rage. I would not be surprised if O.J. did not have an accomplice, maybe a family member. Who else could keep their mouth closed? Maybe it was one of his sons. Who else could keep their mouth closed for this long a time? A hired hitman would have came out. It's just my theories here. I don't know. Speaking of Mr. O.J. Simpson, well, America finally got what they wanted. And O.J. Simpson went to Nevada, and in an attempt to reclaim some of the items that were stolen from his home, he acquired the services of a friend, and then that friend brought some other guys in. Guys who, as I understand it, volunteered. One thing led to another. O.J. was standing before the judge, before the court yet again. Now, somebody should have told O.J., man, don't ever, ever, ever go in front of a judge again, because if you do, it doesn't matter. They're going to get you. I knew that. You knew that. And I'll never forget it because I watched it very intently. I'll never forget it because I knew they were going to throw the book at O.J. I knew it. And it was reported live. The day that O.J. Simpson, it was right before he was going to be sentenced by the judge. And he stood up and he gave this desperate plea. He was like, his voice was wavering. He was almost going to cry. And he said, listen, I'm sorry. He apologized. He said, look, I was trying to go get these items. He tried to play every card in the deck because I even contacted the Goldman family to let them know I'm going to get these items because, they won a $33 million civil suit against him. As I understand it, only a fraction of it did they ever recover. And the judge wasn't having it. She was not having it. Here's a little bit of O.J.'s desperate plea.
I feel apologetic to the people of the state of Nevada. I've been coming to Nevada since 1959. I worked summer jobs here for my uncle in 60 and 61, and I've been coming ever since, and I've never gotten in any trouble. People have always been fine to me. When I came here for a wedding. I didn't come here to reclaim property. I was told it was here. When he told me that Monday that the stuff was in Nevada, when he knew I was going to be in Nevada, I called my kids. I talked to my sisters. I called the Brown family, and I told them I had a chance to get some of our property back. Property that over the years we've seen being sold on the internet.
I'm happy to take that phone call. Yeah, right, O.J.
Seen pictures of ours that was stolen from our home going into the tabloids. We've called the police and asked what to do. They told us what to try to do, but you can never find out who was selling it. And this was the first time I had an opportunity to catch the guys red-handed who had been stealing from my family. I knew these guys. I did think Mike Gilbert would be there. And I know, as they told me, the two guys there, that he was the one who did it. But I have no hatred for Mike Gilbert. In the past, as we know, you heard on the tape, Mike Gilbert tried to set me up in a porn video, tricked me into a room with hidden cameras.
See, I've forgotten all of this.
In the newspaper and the tabloids, they still had cover stories that O.J. did it, even though there was no porn video, even though I didn't participate in it. I forgave Mike. I yelled at him. And I forgave him just like I yelled